Welcome to Iron Summit, the podcast where we dive deep into the art and science of becoming your best self, blending expert insights on strength training, smart recovery, optimal nutrition, and mindset mastery to help you elevate your game. Listen up. Ryan and I, we're not usually big fans of pre-workouts. As Ryan and I have discussed a lot in the past, they're either usually full of shit, way underdosed on the good stuff, and overdosed on the stim. Thankfully for us, we have had our prayers answered. Code Nutra just launched their all-natural organic pre-workout called Code Nectar. If Ryan and I were to design a pre-workout, this would be it. 150 milligrams of caffeine from natural sources, green tea and guarana, beetroot extract for the vasodilation, and L-theanine to smooth all that out. Best part, it's all delivered by honey and Redmond's real salt. That's a good pre-workout. Go get some. CodeNutra.com and use code IRON for 15% off.
We're starting.
Ryan's running a High Rocks.
All right, guys. This was it's like a kilometer run, and then you have you do like a ski erg, and then you do a kilometer run, then it's like row, and then a kilometer run, a sled push. So there's like a little bit of strength components, but it's a running race. It's basically, an hour. I think it's about 6-ish miles total. Like, it's not a crazy amount of running. But it's like a wannabe cross.
Crazy amount of running for me.
You could do it, Max. We did have a bet. Max was going to have to do a marathon, but I kind of forgot what it was.
There's no way I'm doing a marathon. I know, Greg, you did a marathon, right?
Yeah, man. And I wouldn't do it again. It was rough. I felt like I flunked time too. Like, by the time I didn't really train super hard for it. I was like, okay, let me do enough to get through this thing and not die. So I was doing like one short run and one long run a week for like 6 weeks before. That's like all I did. And the week leading up to it, I'm supposed to hit like an 18, 19 miler, like my last one. And I had no idea, by the way, like running was what I should be doing, how I should prep ahead. I just did it myself. I'm like, all right, whatever. So I'm going to hit like this 18 miler or 19 miler, I forget, like 8 days out, I think it was, which already probably should have did it a little bit before that. But my hip is killing me. My hip is killing me. So I'm like, all right, I can't do this. But then 2 days later goes by, my hip's better. I'm like 6 days out at this point, and I'm like, that voice in my head is like, you didn't even do this, you should do this now. So 6 days out, I hit like a 19 miler. My legs were sore up until the race. And it's kind of funny because it was a little bit easier actually doing the marathon, probably just because it felt like pressure was on. There's a bunch of people around. I don't want to die during it. But it sucked, to say the least. The last 6 miles were horrible.
That is so funny. That is such a wrestler's marathon experience. I had a coach growing up that he had like 2 little kids, and he really didn't train. And so he basically was like, screw it, I'm still doing it. And he got it done, and he couldn't walk the whole week at practice. I had to get it done. I signed up for it.
Exactly. I had like a team on my legs and stuff.
Oh, I believe it. Why did you choose to do a marathon?
I don't know. I was like, I just thought like, I want to do something. I want to push myself, whatever. And I said it to one of my friends. So I did it in May. Pittsburgh Marathon's in May. I said it to one of my buddies in like December, I think. And I'm like, well, I said I was going to do it. So I guess I have to do this thing now, And then when I started training for it, like the first couple runs, I'm like 3 miles in, like, how am I going to do this? Like, I have no idea. I haven't ran in forever.
3 miles. Yeah. 3 miles sucks for me. That's like way too far.
You know what's crazy though? One of the coolest things and one of the dumbest things about running is like anybody can do it. Because you could sit at the end of a marathon and you'll watch, like, nobody's saying they're going to get a good time, but there are people that there is no way that they could squat their body weight, and they're running marathons. It's like, it's for anybody, honestly. And
running in quotations. Yeah.
There are some people that are like passing me that I'm like, how are you like able to do this? And I didn't get time either. I got 3:45. So like, nice. I wanted to get under 4 hours, and I was like, okay, this ain't too bad.
Yeah, for like not really training, that's a great time.
It's really solid. And being just like, you're not a small guy, not like you're 175 pounds out here running it. Right.
Although, Greg, you've always, I just remember from some of your stuff earlier, I don't know, last couple of years, you used to do a lot more like aerodyne stuff, cardio stuff. Obviously, you were coaching wrestling for a while at Columbia. So like, you have that cardio base, you had that mentality. Yeah. Are you still doing any of that, or is it more full bodybuilding, not a whole lot of, hit cardio.
Yeah, short answer, none of that. None of that right now.
None of
I did
that.
I did a lot of that stuff, but it's like, you know how it is. Like I would do the skier 500-meter intervals or something like that. Maybe like 4 or 5 of them after, a wrestling practice, or maybe like a short run or something. Like I wasn't, doing crazy conditioning circuits for like hour, 2 hours, or I would get through phases of running sometimes, but I wasn't running, half marathons all the time or anything like that. It would just be like short finishers, which I always thought was really good for wrestling too. It's like we don't need to do it over an hour on the assault bike, but if you're finishing a practice and you do 4 minutes at Tabata, that kills you.
Yeah, for sure.
Because like, my problem, I don't hate. I think people think because I'm a bigger guy, I lift a lot of weights, that I hate like cardio, but that's not true. I actually enjoy a lot of cardio. Like I like the fan bike. I think I have pretty good aerobic capacity actually, especially for my size. I just hate running because it
Mhm.
hurts my body.
Yeah. Your hips,
It's
knees.
like my hips and knees and ankles, especially. And I used to be decent at it at 197, and I went to heavyweight, and I was like, I really hate this. Like it
I
just
Isn't
don't
got
like
crazy
worse.
just a little extra weight, like what it does with
Yeah, it's
running?
so miserable. Like
think
a
your
sprint's
body
okay, but like if I run for more than like 10 minutes, my body is pissed.
Mhm.
I think your body though too. I feel like every time I'm running, um, like that muscle pair down signal is so quick. It's like I'm fighting for every inch trying to put on muscle, and then
Yeah, for
you
sure.
start running a lot and you lean out quick, and it's like this.
And
You know
it's
how long
not
it took
lean out
to.
in the good way. It's
Yeah,
Yeah,
lean
right.
out in the bad
right. 100%. I felt like I shrunk and lost like at least 5 or 6 pounds of muscle whenever I was doing that marathon. And like I agree with you too. I like doing cardio. I wish I did more cardio outside of like, some fasted
walking. Yeah.
20-minute walk, like incline walk or something. But it's like, okay, probably gonna impair my recovery a little bit, especially any cardio that we do is typically leg stuff. And like I'm trying to build my legs big time and I hit legs every 2 to 3 days. So it's like
Yeah.
need to shift recovery there as much as possible. I wish I did more cardio, to be honest.
I know, and it's actually like I think it's fun to do some of the like fan bike aerobic. It's like fun in that kind of shitty, it sucks way, but it feels good.
Cathartic.
Yeah, it's cathartic. But yeah, when you're trying like, and I mean, we'll get into it, Greg. You just went from trying to grow to contest prep, but when you're trying to grow, like every ounce of recovery counts. And even like a stairmaster for too long, you're like putting too much load on your legs. That's not, you're gonna not be able to train legs hard. Plus, the kind of final point on this is like when you're just training legs really hard a couple times a week, that's a lot of cardio just by itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You should be shot after a couple leg days.
I'm surprised too, like if you ever are like really not doing cardio and then you go do something, but you were training hard, you'd be surprised how like not bad you feel. Your VO2 max is still good.
That's
I'm
pretty
not
dang good.
saying like general public probably cut out cardio all the time, but
No,
yeah.
it's true. I
Yeah.
um I haven't done a lick of cardio, like besides bodyweight walking for the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 months, maybe longer since I've really focused on like bodybuilding type training. And then I'm back in the room and we have a solid heavyweight. Like he could win a state title this year. And I'm doing live go, like I don't feel bad at all
Yeah.
just because of lifting.
Part of that
Very
too though is like being an elite wrestler, wrestling with a high schooler, like
it's true. But I'm freaking 33 now. I'm starting to get old. Like my age excuse starts to kick in too.
yeah, yeah, I gotcha. I
I'm
gotcha.
33 washed up training like a bodybuilder and still feel
Yeah.
all right.
Greg, were
I
you doing a lot of extra conditioning when you were wrestling? Because I mean, you had a great gas tank, and typically guys that are pretty muscle bound don't have. I don't know. They're known for gassing out. What were you doing when you were competing in college?
I think that's fake news, Greg.
Hey, my
uh,
coach used to always say it, but I think it's more type 1 versus type 2 muscle fibers. But I
Yeah,
mean, more muscle needs more oxygen. I understand that part too. Like, there's a
for sure.
certain upper limit.
I mean, I think you guys could agree that like once you're able to go through like hard live practices, matches, competing, like doing wrestling all the time as hard as you can, like that's what really builds it. But I would do like things that are a little bit more mental, like after, yes, it's going to help with my conditioning, doing some Tabata or something like that. But just thinking like, how am I going to get a little bit of an edge after this practice? So maybe conditioning one day. I would stretch every day. I would stretch every single day. Maybe just like doing an extra 20 shots or something on somebody, something like that. But I never really did a ton extra conditioning. It would be like 2 times a week max, maybe, because typically I was pretty beat from practice already, especially in the middle of the season. Maybe preseason a little bit more, but during the season, once or twice, maybe.
Okay. I think that makes a lot of sense. And a lot of people skip over the fact that, like, if you're wrestling really hard in practice, I don't think you need a whole lot of extra conditioning. And I almost think the zone 2, like weight cut cardio, really just caps off your conditioning.
Mhm.
But I tell you what, you forget it just being a couple years out of college. Like, you forget that, oh my gosh, I want to die feeling when you're just exhausted wrestling. And that is like the worst feeling in the world. And you got to put yourself there if you want to have any kind of a shot to be competitive in matches.
And that you can't get that on a fan bike. Like, you can help prevent getting there like fast, but you can't like get that level of tired. Just not.
Yeah.
Wrestling's the
Yeah,
only
you
way.
know how you get there on a fan bike is you go on the fan bike for a minute sprint and then you do a 2-minute go with somebody and then you go back on the fan
And
bike
then,
for a
yeah,
minute.
then you wrestle. Yeah,
Yeah.
We used to do that Shark Tank, dude. So it would like pyramid up to a minute and back down, and be like 15 on, 15 off, 30 on, 30 off, up and down. And then we'd go and wrestle and you'd have 7 1-minute goes with guys just like coming in on you. And like, you can't even move your legs. You're just trying not to get taken down. It was a pretty gritty practice when we started doing that like once a week leading up to Big Tens.
that will
Boring
make it
experience.
tough. Yeah. I do think back to the muscle bound makes you gas out. I think there's definitely truth. Like, the more muscle you have, the better aerobic capacity you have to develop to like be able to feed all that muscle tissue oxygen. But on the other side, especially in weight class sports, like, the less fat mass you're carrying around, the better aerobic capacity you can have, because you can't train fat mass to have aerobic capacity.
That's interesting.
And train red tissue. So like, when you like at heavyweight, I felt like it was a big, like, I probably had as much muscle mass, if not more than most of the bigger guys I was wrestling, but I felt like I had a huge, like, my game was the gas tank
Yeah.
at heavyweight, because I felt like I could move better and go better at 7-minute goes. And I would argue like heavyweight's probably the most extreme example of that, but it's across every weight class. Cause I'm like, Greg, you were a huge 197 pounder. Ryan, you were a ridiculously big 157 pounder. And I think all three of us were probably like more on the gas tank side of things than not.
Mm-hmm. I have a question for you, Deacon, actually. Because you say like huge 97 pounder, Deacon. I know that you were big. I didn't cut like any weight for 97. Everybody thought like I was really big in
That's awesome.
Muscular.
did you cut for weight?
Yeah, I'd probably walk around, I don't know, 6 to 10 pounds overweight. And I think that, early on when I was going 57, it was probably a little less. But as I got older, like, I just think muscles are denser. It's a different game. Like, I was growing, I almost went 65 my last year, but I was like, that kind of felt like I was being, a wuss and throwing in the towel to like have an easy year, and in weight cut wise, not saying like there's easy guys up a weight class. I'm just saying like, it was like, oh, you don't have to cut hard. But I also like learned my nutrition better and better where I could feel good. But I do remember the first time, because I wrestled 149 my first year, my redshirt freshman year and my redshirt year. And I remember the first time I was at Midlands and I was a true freshman and I was wrestling. I think it was Brandon Sorensen, the Iowa dude. He was tough. And like the first time I wrestled him, I was like, wow, there's a different like horsepower here. Because, I was always strong wrestling guys, but I do think there's a certain amount of like, you almost get gassed more too if you have to use 100% of your muscle on every, shot. And then once I like, spent more time getting in the weight room, physically maturing a little bit more, you didn't feel that extra, 10 or 15 pounds of that guy that's crashing hard, coming down, cutting weight. When they're sprawling on you, there's a whole lot of energy that's expended when you don't have the horsepower to like blow through that. And I definitely knew like that was one match that stood out where I was like, wow, like I got to really continue to weight train in season here and really feel good, because there are some guys that are like, they're big, they're strong, and you gotta have the horsepower to compete with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Sure.
for sure. I feel like too with that, it's because you were probably really strong at that point too. Like there probably comes a bit of efficiency with wrestling and like using your strength in different spots and stuff too, But like your mindset goes to getting stronger and getting better there, and it like just ends up being better across the board. You become like stronger, you become a better wrestler, whatever it might be. But like the efficiency of being a better wrestler too, I feel like translates after you have those matches that are like, all right, it's a wake up call.
Yeah.
For
No,
sure.
and I think that's a great point. Tervel said something to me about that. I was training out at Nebraska one summer, and he was talking about, he's like, the biggest thing about wrestling is like just getting really efficient in your positions. Because if you get somebody that's not efficient and you pull them into your positions, they get exhausted. It's like if somebody threw you in a pool, like you'd probably be exhausted. But if you swam for 4 weeks straight, you'd get a lot more efficient. You wouldn't be as tired. So, I mean, I think that's a lot of wrestling, and that's why it's good to have different partners. You get efficient in other positions, but obviously you can never like master every single position and be efficient in every position. So yeah, I think it's a good point.
For sure. What did you walk around at, Greg? Because you looked like one of the biggest guys out there.
I got up in the off season. I'd be like, I might have hit 215, but it was like 212 maybe. And this could be a reason too. I would just do it right. Like I would get down in preseason, lose like a pound and a half, 2 pounds a week for a while. I'd get down to like around 200 and then go back to maintenance calories. And it's like maintenance calories is, me lifting and wrestling all the time, like probably above 4,000 at that point. Like it was super easy. But if I would have just stayed at 210, 212, it would have felt like, pretty bad
Yeah.
weight cut.
Felt like a cut. For sure. And I think also like you were doing it right and you're carrying a lot of muscle mass. Like you were not fluffy at 197. So you're carrying a lot of mass for the weight. So yeah, those two things combined, and you're a big 197 pounder. Even if you weren't like fluctuating a bunch and cutting a bunch every week to get there, you were big for the weight class.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize too. Like, there's some outliers where like Deacon, you are really lean at your weight, and there's some other people like that. But for the most part, most people can get down in body fat like preseason, beginning of season, and just maintain that weight really easy if they don't screw things up and like binge and like go crazy and
Yeah,
everything, and, like go
I'm
back up.
sure,
Like
man.
you could like once you get your weight down, I mean, like these 49 pounders could probably eat like 3,000 calories a day with how much they're moving and stuff, but they just
Yeah.
fluctuate so much.
Yeah, and they binge and they're pushing the body fat. I always like you shouldn't be doing crazy weight cuts unless you're like less than 10% body fat. And really you could probably say that's like a little lower, but rule of thumb.
Well, and I think two things to add there too. Like if you got a lot of muscle mass, you can suck water out quickly. Like
Way
your muscles can hold a lot of water. You can drop that quick and touch and go. But I think the second thing with that is like to your point, Greg, your body adjusts a little bit. But I always felt like in season, I was trying to fight to not let my natural body weight adjust too much. Cause then it's like you kind of lose the advantage of being bigger in the weight class and cutting weights. Like you should just go down a weight class or just stay at your normal, what you're weighing. So there would be times where I'm like, wow, this could be really nice. This would be an easier cut. And I'm like, no, I got to put on, 2 pounds, 3 pounds so that this is a little bit harder.
Mhm.
And maybe that was the wrong thing to do, but it's like, I'm going to cut weight. I'm going to cut weight. I hated that middle ground where you're like 2 or 3 pounds over and you kind of got to watch your water and food.
Similar.
I'd rather be all in or not cutting. Like, I don't like the in between. You're kind of cutting.
Dude, that 2 to 3 pounds is the best because then you can just hydrate fully until the day before. And then you're like, all right, now I go
I
to,
did that anyways. I was like, I'm going to have a bad 24 hours. That's it.
That's funny.
you mentioned too, like more muscle mass, like losing more water weight too. I started my prep like a week and a half ago. And I think I'm like 12 pounds down from going like
Wow.
6,300 calories to like 4,500 to 5,000 ish, depending on the day, like low, medium, high days. It's
Yeah.
crazy just how much water and stuff and like, maybe a little less glycogen, but it's not like I'm not full. I still have,
Yeah.
700 grams of carbs on certain days, that sort of thing. But
What's up, guys? If you're looking to level up your training, click the link in the description and check out the Iron Summit Gains Emporium. Our strength training plans are designed to help you pack on muscle, and with our software, you can track every workout right from your phone. Plus, you'll have direct access to us for any questions along the way. Don't just train, level up your training.
comes off
You think it's just water right at first?
a lot of water. And I mean, my metabolism is revved up. So it's probably like 2 to 3 pounds of fat, maybe, but like 8 pounds of water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is crazy. Before I want to get into your prep and also just how you change training and diet. But while we're on the topic of wrestling and kind of performance, and this was something I wanted to talk to you about last time. We just didn't really get into it much. But you've coached bodybuilders and also wrestlers, athletes yourself. What do you think? And Ryan and I talk about this a lot, but what do you think? How do you parse performance training from like aesthetics training? And I'm talking just in the weight room. Like we can make it really simple and say
Mhm.
just strength training. Like what do you think the main differences are, and where are there less difference than people would think?
I would say the main differences are going to be like exercise selection and executions. Like with bodybuilding, I mean, I might have somebody do a full focus lat day where it's like all one arm lat focus. Like we're just trying to contract the lat as much as possible. And then the next day might be, I don't know, let's say glute and hamstring day. That's, tempo slowed down, like whatever it might be. It's a lot more focused on
Very
execution
focused.
where
Yeah.
not that execution doesn't matter with wrestling or anything. Like we want form to be perfect, but it's about getting strong and powerful. And even if you can get faster, like I don't know if you guys do any sort of like explosive stuff, or if you have anybody go like super fast squat, like as fast as you can, timed, like that sort of thing. I don't really do a lot of it
Yeah.
because it's a lot of effort. If we're in the strength room for college wrestling and stuff, and you have those different metrics to track it, it might be easier. But I don't have people do that. But I will have people track progressive overload in both scenarios. I will have them write down all their weights, make sure that we're going up 5 pounds or a rep or improving execution on each of the exercises. But the wrestling might go towards, compound movements with a little bit of plyometrics and minimal amounts of accessories, just enough for a little extra volume, where bodybuilding might shift over to like, yes, compound movements to get strong, but make sure we're hitting the targeted muscle, like our quads on a hack squat instead of back squat, to become more explosive for wrestlers.
Right. Yeah. I think it makes a lot of sense.
I think too, like that is such a great way to put it, where you're basically like you get your meat and potatoes, especially in season with wrestling, and then you're not trying to over fatigue. Where bodybuilding, it's like you're trying to just drive that growth. You're trying to over fatigue. You're not, trying to recover for a sport. Um, but it's just there's so much. I don't know. I feel like I every day have to talk about like a Kyle Dake type training plan to people that are like, well, what about this? What about this functional movements? What about this? And I'm like, listen, if you want to be functional, go wrestle. Like you're gonna be more functional when you're wrestling. That's gonna be the most like sport like specific training you can do. Um, but I do think I don't know. It's like Kyle Dake was squatting, deadlifting, hang cleaning, doing everything, and then he got to a point where he's cutting 30 pounds, and he's like, "Oh, I'm just doing body weight stuff now." And I'm like, "Okay, yeah, you have to lose 30 pounds." Like,
There's anomalies in every sport, and
yeah,
like
he's a freak
whether
athlete.
Nader didn't do it before, he's still an anomaly. Like it doesn't mean that's
Yeah,
what you should do at the end of the day.
yeah, yeah. There's
100%.
a tried and true
It,
way.
there is. And I do think because people, I've seen the mistake before where people like, oh, no, you can't do that as an athlete. That's a bodybuilding movement. And it's
Mhm.
not always like, sometimes it's good to isolate tissue, like, and whether it's because when you isolate tissue, I'm not saying, and I totally agree with you. Like in general, athletes should train more compound movements, focus on being more explosive, control the tempo a little bit less, focus on more being strong than trying to grow. But sometimes it's good to isolate a tissue and like make that stronger, and like doing a dumbbell fly can be great for athletes because it strengthens like the shoulder capsule and your pec tendon and all that kind of stuff. That's not just a bodybuilding movement. How you execute it, maybe, or how often you're training that kind of stuff. That's it. But I think it's silly sometimes the way performance coaches look at certain movements. Are like, nah, it's bodybuilding. You
Mhm.
can't do that. Like that's not an athletic movement. So yeah, that's my soapbox on
I
that.
I trained like a bodybuilder for like, I don't know, all of my wrestling career, I think. Like I maybe started to transition a little bit more when I learned a little bit more about like plyometrics and different things like that. And like maybe, taking a little bit more time off, like recovery, focusing on the wrestling practices. But like my sophomore year of college, I would lift with the team, and then I would be like, I was into bodybuilding too. So I would go lift later, and I would lift like 6 days a week, and then I'd wrestle like 5 or 6 days a week. Like I was just doing all of it all the time.
That's why
And,
you're good. You're a psycho.
it worked. It got me really strong. So I don't think
For
that
sure.
like one way is way better than the other. I think like,
Yeah.
there is going to be some
You
things
can
you should,
optimize. Yeah.
yeah.
You can optimize, but like I've done the same thing too, Greg. And then I had a strength coach that was like, look, you're leaving performance on the table here. Let's like a little more focused, which I'm very thankful for him. But like even if you're lifting like a total bodybuilder, like doing hack squats only and 5-day, 6-day splits, super targeted, but you're wrestling all the time, you're gonna be mostly fine.
Yeah.
You're probably still gonna be pretty strong. Like you could optimize that and make your strength training a little more performance focused and stuff. But yeah, that's kind of you're covering most of the bases if you're
Mhm.
training.
Well, one other question I got for you, Greg, and honestly, Max, want to hear your take on it too. Um, what do you think about like, I mean, high school wrestlers now, even, I mean, shoot, youth wrestlers, like there's no real off season because the time to put on muscle, with wrestling is typically like you can go more towards that bodybuilder split in the off season, put on some muscle tissue while you're still wrestling, a few days a week. So you're keeping your tissues like, strong and limber and you're functional with the muscle still. But like now it's like you're wrestling 11 months out of the year if you're following these national tournaments and chasing stuff. And I don't know why parents don't like pull their kids back on some of this stuff, but I think everyone's so afraid. They see like Bo Bassett, posting videos of training twice a day and getting up at 4 a.m. And they're like, that's what we need to do. And I think there's a lot of kids that one burn out and then two are getting hurt. And then three, their long-term development. It's like you're getting short-term gains, but you're not going to be this great wrestler when you're older because you're not spending those off seasons, growing, adding muscle tissue, being more, um, I don't know, physically resilient.
I think one thing you mentioned, like the burnout and everything, I totally agree with. Like, I feel like there should be a little bit of a down period where like you can take a little bit of a break, especially when you're younger. Like, I mean, for me, I would take off like a couple months at a time whenever I was younger. And like, if at that point, even when I was like 13, I think 14, take like a couple months off, lift, eat, like that sort of thing. And I felt great. But the people who are wrestling all the time, though, there's a shift in energy expenditure though. If you're in the middle of the season, like you're probably cutting and or in a deficit or making weight, that sort of thing, where even if you're wrestling a lot outside of the season, it's going to come down to, okay, am I hitting these lifts? Am I in a calorie surplus? Am I recovering? But the thing is, are kids going to be able to follow that like super, to a
Right.
T and make sure they're in a surplus on my fitness pal? Okay, getting enough sleep, doing this and that. No, it's going to be a lot harder, but you can grow whenever you're in a surplus. You're just going to have those shifts in season out of season.
Yeah, I agree. I think and then the other piece like is they're wrestling so many tournaments now.
Yeah.
It's just like they're peaking every weekend, and it's not like it would be one thing if the youth wrestlers were like, hey, this off season batch of tournaments doesn't matter, just go get your matches in. Like I don't care how you do, right? Just
People are
like
too competitive for that,
no,
man.
it doesn't. In wrestling, no one's ever done that in wrestling.
Yeah.
Have you ever wrestled a match where you didn't really care about winning? I haven't. Like, so like it's something definitely I've been preaching to parents I coach with is like, hey, let's compete a little less. Let the kids like grow. Practice. You can wrestle a lot, and then yeah, to your point, Greg, as long as you're fueling properly and sleeping, like just wrestling is just a part of the training. But let's stop competing so much. Like that's where I think the fault's at.
Yeah, if you're competing a ton in the off season, then realistically, that's taking away. Okay, that whole day is yes, getting you better at wrestling experience, but the day before you're kind of prepping for it. You're not going to lift or anything. You're making weight. Recovery's not going to be good. The day after, you're going to be like, all right, like I feel beat from this tournament. So it gives you like 4 days out of the week to actually train for the next season.
Right.
Yeah. I think too, like when I was coming up in high school, and maybe this is a Colorado scene thing. I don't know if it's different in Jersey, Greg, but like we
And yeah.
I mean, freestyle season, we were still wrestling, but it was immediately go up a weight class. And then it was like every, I don't know, couple weeks would be a tournament. And so my body, like, I feel like it adjusted when I was growing. It would kind of hold weight throughout season. And then I, instantly put on 10 pounds over the summer because I wasn't wrestling as much. My body was ready to grow. And I'd like, um, it wasn't as much like banging on your body in the off season, and we were wrestling year round. And I do think this is like, we're talking to a very specific group of parents here where it's like, hey, your kid's actually going to do really well in college. I do think there's a certain level of like healthy overtraining in high school to like work hard, get those reps, get that volume, understand a competitive environment and not freak out when you're, out there wrestling. But there are some kids that are like, your kid's going to be really good. Don't mess this up. And the way to not mess that up is to like pull them back a little bit, keep them hungry, and not just like go hurt them and jam through, 300 matches a year.
Mm-hmm. For sure. PA, by the way. Deacon
Okay,
PA.
sorry, PA. Yeah.
But
That's a
Um,
big
well, that's PA's got tournaments every weekend, right? I mean, I know it's a lot of folk style, but like there's a huge freestyle presence in PA. It's not like you guys probably ever stopped wrestling. Like, how did you take a couple months off when you're 13, 14? Because I'm sure the pressure to wrestle was there.
I just didn't want to, like, I don't know what you guys were like, but I wanted a break. And like my dad was good with letting me take a little bit of time off. And it doesn't mean like I live 10 minutes away from Nino Bonacorsi. So, if he asked me to practice or something, like one day, okay, I would go over, or like, as the summer would go on, we'd practice a little bit more, that sort of thing. But I would take like a good amount of time off. Like, let's say it was 2 months. Maybe I wrestled like 3 times during that, like
Yeah.
I wouldn't do a ton. You make a good point though. Whenever you're holding your weight when you're younger and like you're staying at that weight class, whether let's say you're 15, 14, whatever it is, and then you start to notice like throughout the season, if you're doing the right things, if you're still trying to lift and like you're just starting, whatever it might be, your body's like a sponge after. Like you
Yeah.
soak that up. And it reminds me a lot. I was thinking of this the other day. Reminds me a lot of like a bodybuilding competition, like because you're staying at that weight for so long, you're leaner, and then when you're younger too, you want to grow. Your body wants to grow, especially when you're moving that much and you're starting to train, you're starting to lift. So I was like, when I was starting to lift, 13 years old, I think. I was 14, weighing 126 in high school, and then the next year I wrestled 152, and like was not fat by any means, like maybe
Yeah.
a tiny bit more than 126. So it's like over 20 pounds of muscle in a year. It's like an unheard of thing, but you just soak that up when you're in puberty. You were very
Do it.
insensitive, very lean. You're learning how to lift hard. You're getting stronger. Like those are the times, the whole off season, don't get me wrong, but the few months after the season, like if you take advantage of it, you can get really strong and gain a lot of muscle.
for sure. If we want to if I'm a parent and I want all my kids to be like, look and feel and be genetic freaks, I'm going to let them grow when their body's like in the most prime time to grow in their
I think your
entire
kids are
life.
going to be genetic freaks, Max.
Well, I'm going to encourage it by letting them get it. It's just like, I was same thing. Right? I went 140 to 160 to like 189 to cutting a ton of weight for 189, no fat. It's just like, and that was in high school. And when I grew was the off season and took a little more time off and lifted some weights. And yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's
And
super important. So you
that's
got
like,
to
I
go
was
ahead.
gonna say, think about that. That's like, I don't know. Let's just say at most like 6 months over 3 or 4 different times. So like 2 years max of putting on size, and you put on like 50 pounds of muscle or something. Like that's pretty crazy.
That is nuts to think about. Yeah, I mean, I went from 99 pounds for freshman football weigh-ins to, I mean, I graduated like 160, and I grew probably, 8 or 9 inches,
On bone. But that
but
stuff doesn't
still.
weigh that much. Like your skeleton doesn't weigh that much. Your soft tissue weighs like it's your muscle. It's really muscle mass.
Yeah. Greg, take us through. I mean, you're getting into a bodybuilding prep right now, right? Like, can you talk about, not to take a huge left turn here, but want to make sure we cover some of this too? Is like, what was the bulk like? Obviously, we talked a little bit about, how many calories you were eating last time, but like how that go? Maybe recap of that, and then what's the plan going forward? What are you liking, not liking about the cut, and how are you adjusting along the way?
Yeah, man, I'm pumped for the cut because it feels like I was bulking for so much longer than I actually was though. And like it was a long time, don't get me wrong, probably like 8 months. Um, but wow, did I hate food by the end of it. And it's funny too, because going back to like the soaking up food, when you're really insulin sensitive, when you're really lean after like a bodybuilding show or after the wrestling season, that sort of thing, like it's great because you push carbs slowly, you soak it up, you feel good, your digestion's great, your appetite's really good. But I was getting to a point where like, okay, I'm putting down so much food, I'm still not gaining weight. Like I'm never hungry, not a second of the day. And I will die on this hill. Bulking is so much harder than cutting. I don't care what people say. I know you guys probably agree with me too, but I'm like going to sleep with my neck like over 19 inches, like trying to sleep and like snoring and stuff. Like it's horrible. Everything is horrible peak bulk. So I lost like 12 pounds within a week and a half, and I feel so much better. The things that I don't like about it so far is the fact that I could just eat less. You know what I mean? But you want to take it slow. I mean, I'm like 15 weeks out or something, so I'm going to take it slow the whole time. Make sure I keep everything I gained. No point to get down to weight like 8 weeks out or anything like that. So right now I'm still not really hungry at all or anything. I'm sure that'll come in a month or so. We'll see, but it's been good so far. There's not a whole lot of changes. What was I at? 6,300 calories before. Now I'm probably at, like I said, 4,500 to 5,000 or so. I'd have to check. I go by a meal plan, but like I just decrease carbs, fats, each week. There was a big jump the first week. The next week was maybe like 50 to 70 a day, came down again. So everything's still really high at this point, to be honest.
Yeah. So you're just starting. I think let's touch on that because it's hugely important when you go from cutting to bulking to make that transition properly. So maybe touch on that and how you go about that. But it's also important to just like when you go from bulking to cutting, same thing. You don't want to just like black to white hop into a huge caloric deficit after eating 6,300 calories a day, which is for anyone who's ever done that, it's miserable. Like that is not
That's
fun.
insane. Yeah.
Miserable amount of food.
And I'll touch on the bulking to cutting first. I do think that you can be a little bit more aggressive in a cut after a bulk for sure. You don't need to be like, let's try to reverse down like we did up. Like you don't need to go 100 calories down. Like I could have went straight to like 3,500 and not lost muscle or anything and been completely fine, especially when you have a lot higher body fat at the end of the bulk. Now, whenever you start to get lower, you dip under like an 8% or something, you want to keep your deficit. And, I would say not more than like 500 calorie deficit a day or something like that. But initially, you can come out the gates pretty hard. I'm just not doing it because I have a lot of time, so I can take it slow. But going from cutting to bulking, huge. Like if you're really lean and you're eating 1,800 calories a day, and I try to tell like, wrestling clients that I have, and like when I was at Columbia helping out those guys, like, okay, if you're gonna go into a surplus and try to bulk out for the season and, gain muscle and not gain a ton of fat, you have to see like where you're at now. And then you're going to wrestle a little bit less after the season, even if you're wrestling a lot. So you're going to be burning less calories too. You have to adjust slowly. Like let's put in, I'm not saying 10 grams of carbs a day, but maybe you only increase like 400, 500 calories or something the first week, see how you respond, maybe another like 200 or so. Everybody's going to be different. Like somebody might gain like 6 pounds from just putting in 400 to 500 calories. Me, I put in I doubled my calories. I think I was like above 4,000 after this bodybuilding competition that I did in April, and nothing happened. Like literally nothing. I could not gain weight. So I jumped over 5,000 probably within a month to start gaining with cheat meals and stuff like that. Like everybody's going to be different. I kind of have a crazy metabolism, but you want to take it slow no matter what. So if there's like a framework for it, and let's just say generally it's probably going to be 200 to 400 calories, mainly coming from carbs. Protein should already be there. A little bit of fats once the carbs start going up, but each week increasing slowly like that for, I would say 4 to 6 weeks, probably puts you in a good spot. But it's got to be slow because if you just throw it all at once, probably going to gain some fat pretty quick.
Yeah. I think this is, and there's a lot more science around this now. And it shows like, and I think a lot of this like points to how bad yo-yo dieting is and popping up and
Yeah.
down. But that like when you are super lean, you're starving, really. You're in starvation. When your body is at its most willing point to add fat tissue. And if you throw a ton of calories at it, like bodybuilders often do, or wrestlers postseason, very similar profile there, you actually get it's not just you're not just adding fat tissue, but you add new fat cells, which is I think like adipogenesis, which that is like a terrible thing because now you have those fat cells forever. And you didn't just grow the size of your existing fat cells. So, and when you do that, then that can like change your metabolic profile. It changes your hunger cues down the road. Like there's all these knock-on effects of this like extreme yo-yo, just go from 1,800 calories to 4,000 calories right away. Like it's just so bad. So it's just like I think it's something that anyone who competes either in bodybuilding or wrestling, like just be aware, like there's real long-term consequences if you're doing this like quick bounce out of it. Or even in season, like if you're doing like a day or two after a hard cut and eating a bunch, there's a lot of negative effects.
Yeah, I feel like, well, on that last note, I mean, people don't realize that, if you could put down a lot of food, you could put on at least like a pound of fat during one single night post batch. Like if you're eating 10,000 calories and you only burn like 3,500, that's coming up on like 2 pounds, So one day does do something, people.
What's the rule of thumb? It's like a pound of fat per three or 4,000 calorie excess?
Isn't it
3,500.
3,500? Yeah.
3,500. Yeah.
Greg, what about, can you talk on maybe the mental side of it? I think that's like the biggest thing here where, I mean, we'll talk about the cutting part too, but I think everyone like generally, like as long as you're okay with being a little hungry and stuff, like people like how they look, how they feel when they're lean. Um, how do you commit to that bulk when you start, like you're saying, you feel like junk, you're starting to put on some extra fat tissue, committing to that plan and like sticking to it? Cause I think something that I see all the time is like somebody's like, I'm gonna bulk. And then, about a month in, they're like, ooh, I don't know that I like this. I'm putting on some fat tissue. I don't look the way I want to look. And then they freak out and then they yo-yo back to like cutting. And then they end up never really putting on muscle because they just go up and down so quickly and don't give that plan like time to manifest into like what you're actually trying to do.
You said one thing right there that I think a lot of people fall into the trap of. They think like, okay, cut the bulk. In a month in, they're like, I feel fat. Like, let me cut. And some people who have like a, little bit of body dysmorphia might only be like a couple pounds up but feel fat. But for the majority, it's because people are getting fat a month in. Like they're pushing the bulk too hard within a month and then realize like, okay, I look fat right now. I gained 10 pounds in this last month when I probably should have gained like 3 to 4. So it puts them in like a yo-yo stage, whether it might not be yo-yo as in binge eat one day and then deficit for like 4 days and binge eat, but it's like, okay, for this month, I ate way too much and I'm going to cut for a month and I'm going to do that. So going back to taking it much slower, if you get really lean, then you're not going to look bad for a long time if you do the right things. I still and I have a fast metabolism, so it's different for most people. But after like 8 months, even though I felt fat, like I still had a six pack. You can do it the right way and go slow, even if you're a lot fatter than you were previously. But whenever it comes to like, okay, pushing to the bulk, like I wanted to be done with it, I don't know, at least 2 months ago, probably like 3 months ago. But there's an end goal at the end of the day. Like I know that I wanted to compete at some point. I knew like this year, I knew that I needed to grow in certain areas. And if I didn't just do it, then it wouldn't happen. And I think something in the day to day to make people, committed to it a little bit better is enjoying the workouts. Like make sure that you love your training because it should be the best that it's ever going to be when you're peak bulk because your weight's high, your strength should be really high. Your muscles should be full glycogen. You should have a ton of it. You might feel like crap the whole day outside of the gym. You're going to feel really good.
True.
So look forward to the gym session and hitting PRs. And that's what gets you through. And then there comes a point where even that doesn't really get you through anymore. Like I can touch on it, but the last couple weeks, I was telling my coach the other day, I was on the phone with him and I'm like, dude, I think my workouts are better right now than they were the last month of the bulk because I'm not overdoing everything the whole time. That's when your body's just telling you it's time.
Yeah, for sure. That is also, here's my pro tip is baggy clothing.
Yep.
You look like there's all these memes and they're so true. It's like, do you want to look really good in a shirt or do you want to look really good with your shirt off? Like, you want to look thick in a hoodie, peak bulk.
Yeah.
You're just big, like you're filling out any piece of clothing you wear. So
Well,
just wear
how
like hoodies and t-shirts in the gym, you look cool.
you can tell if somebody's big if they look big in a big t-shirt. Like if somebody's big, they'll look bigger than they actually are in a big shirt. But if they're small, they'll look smaller than they actually are.
Yeah. Great test of size right there. If someone can pull off, like a pump cover and look jacked, they got some muscle.
Yeah.
So what about, how's your training changed going from bulk to cut? If at all, like what has changed with your actual in the gym stuff?
Yeah, this will blow people's minds because everybody likes changing training a ton, but absolutely nothing has changed. I think I've done the same program for 20 plus weeks at this point, the same exact stuff. And granted, I switched gyms, so like some exercises are a little bit different, but the same premise, like, on a pressing quad focus leg day, like instead of hack squats, I'm doing pendulum now. Instead of using a regular leg press, I'm using a Cybex. I'm just like different machines, but like the same general workout plan is exactly the same. Upper lower rest, upper lower rest. One's a quad focus, glute ham focus, push, pull, and then full upper, full lower. I think a lot of people change plans way too quick. Like just because, you're transitioning from a bulk to cut to bulk, or you finish 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever that might be. If you're progressing and it's working, like there's no point to change what you're doing. Like you can run it into the ground for years, like a couple years. I feel like people run pretty much the same premise of a program for as long as they possibly can, especially in bodybuilding. I think they understand this a lot more than other sports where strength coaches really try to change stuff like, oh, new week, new workouts, that sort of thing. Where
Yeah.
I don't know, I feel like keeping it simple and seeing what works and just keeping that in play is always going to be best for me, at least.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think sports coaches could take something from this because, like, at the end of the day, we train to force adaptation, and like bodybuilding is the most like one of the most finite measurable versions of that adaptation. It's just like just pure growth, but you can do the same thing for athletic performance or powerlifting. And look, I mean, yeah, I think people could definitely take something from bodybuilding on that, not switching it up so often.
I think
Plus, there's
one
just exercises that work, like whether it's for performance or bodybuilding, they just work.
Mhm. 100%. I think too, whenever there's going to be a time where you feel like you need a deload, but it doesn't mean you have to change your program after. Like if you did 10 weeks worth of a certain program and your lifts are up like 40 pounds on compound movements and execution's better on certain things, whatever it might be, and your body's beat, like you can take a deload and then go back to that same program. And what I'll do is like, okay, maybe I was using the hack squat and went 5 plates to six plates over a 12-week period for like the same reps, but realized, okay, the initial week, the reps were a little bit slower. There's a little bit longer pause. Like I'm just doing whatever I can towards the end of the program to like get more reps, get more weight, whatever it is. So like after that deload, I'll be like, okay, let me scale back. I'm going to go instead of 5 to 6, I'm going to go 5 1/4 and do the same exact form I was doing in the beginning of the last program to be able to reassess, reset, and build from there. Because I feel like I run into this a lot with wrestlers that I'll coach too. They want to they want to get stronger, so they're going to push really hard, which means they might sacrifice form to implement progressive overload each week. So you
Yeah.
gotta find that balance of, okay, we've been progressing for a while, form's getting a little messed up, scale back, start again.
Yep.
It's a great point. And I think to that point too, like when you're keeping your program, similar or the same for a long period of time, you don't get in this like messy middle where you actually know how you're progressing because you're doing the same exercises. Like I think sometimes people change exercises and they don't realize like they take a big step back. Um, and I don't know, when you stack something, you do it consistently, it's a lot easier to measure, track, and like actually improve at that specific movement.
Hmm.
For sure. What how because I keep my exercise selection virtually the same year round. It's like maybe some little tweaks, like you said, here or there. But my set rep schemes do change. Sometimes I'll be like right now I'm doing like more like sets of 15, super pumpy type stuff. And then I just got done with a block where I was doing like, 8 reps, really pushing the weight. Like, how do you change your set and rep schemes, or do you keep that pretty similar year round as well?
Yeah, I keep it pretty similar, and it's just because I think you're always learning, but I think I kind of found what works for me from recovery standpoint, bodybuilding, what feels good on my joints, everything like that. So my upper body, like I typically, knock on wood, don't get too many issues with my shoulders or anything like that. So I can press pretty heavy. Not like saying that I'll hit triples or singles or anything like that, but I can do a set of 5 or a set of 6 sometimes and go there. But with any sort of squat, I will not go under like 10 reps. Like I feel way better if I keep it a little bit higher rep. My legs grow a little bit better. My knees and joints feel way better. So I typically stay the same throughout the year, depending on the body part. Maybe at lowest 6 on some pressing stuff, but typically in like an 8 to 12 range plus. In legs, I'll stay at lowest 10,
10 to
typically in like a
15.
15 to 20.
Yeah, that makes sense. What do you think of the pendulum squat? And were you doing 7 plates on the pendulum squat?
I was doing 6. I said 7's coming.
Okay. Like, dude, that's so strong. The pendulum squat's the most humbling machine
Humbling.
in the world.
Humbling, for sure.
And every plate you put on is like exponentially heavier.
There
Yeah,
are not a lot of gyms that have them either. That's sweet. You got one.
Yeah.
it's nice. Yeah, it's
Which
nice. I
which
like it a
kind
lot.
is it?
What's that?
Do you know which pendulum squat it is? Because I've also found like pendulum squats are so different machine to machine.
Dude, I'll have to check because they have a lot of different equipment here. They have Nautilus, they have Prime, they have Atlantis, they have Hammer Strength, like a bunch of different stuff. It's a pretty solid gym. I like it. I'll have to check what the pendulum is. I forget.
Yeah, you gotta let me know because I love a good pendulum squat. That is it's like it's a rare find because they're so big. So most gyms don't have because it's like got like an 8-foot long footprint.
They are
You
huge.
got something to just train your quads.
You gotta have some space.
Yeah,
Yeah, it feels great on your quads, and it feels really good on my knees too. Like I feel completely fine when I'm sitting in the hole down there, like full knee flexion, feel great. So like
yeah.
run that into
But
the ground.
it's a good position for your knees, and it's just a like super lengthened quad. You can get it on a hack squat a little bit, just not as loaded there as
Mhm.
it is on a pendulum squat. No, I love pendulum squat
I think it's a good transition into like Greg. Let's do like some rapid fire favorite exercise by a muscle group. Just
for growth.
whatever comes to mind. Doesn't matter if it's like your favorite because you just like
Mhm.
pressing
Yeah.
heavy weight with this. But like, okay, let's start with chest. What's your favorite chest exercise?
You can only
Incline.
pick one.
I'll do incline Smith machine.
Okay, I feel like I could have guessed that. I feel like I've seen a lot of videos of you doing that.
You guys probably guessed a lot of it because it's all over social media.
All right, lats.
Lats. One arm lat pull down, but set up a bench at like a cable pulley, not on the lat pull down, and kind of have an angle towards it. If you know how
Yeah.
much
Are
right
Yeah,
now.
you
like
are
a
you
pull
going
around.
here or
Yeah,
okay?
like Max did. Yep.
Yeah,
And
like a pull. I
having
call
that,
it a pull around. Yeah,
having that at the middle of like cables where you would do like cable crossovers or something, not on like the lat pull down where you're sitting there.
Gotcha.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I
Cool.
call that a lat pull around.
Pull
That's
around.
one of my favorites too. Yeah, because
Yeah.
it's kind of like a combination of a row and a pull down. So you get everything all at the same time.
Love it. Biceps.
And probably just a one arm dumbbell curl.
Oldie
Standing.
but a goodie. Yeah,
Standard.
that's Old Faithful right there.
Yeah.
What about triceps?
Fact, I don't do biceps like at all though. I haven't
Okay.
for like years. They're just kind of there.
Just there. You get so much. You get a lot of biceps
Bowling.
training.
Yeah, for sure.
Other things.
That's fair.
Just kind of there.
What about triceps?
Triceps. That's a good question. Probably just like a probably just like a rope tricep push down. I don't know. Triceps is one that I mean, arms in general, I'm just not a fan of. Like I don't get fired up to do arms. Yeah.
Okay. Delts.
Lateral raise. Probably like a machine lateral raise.
Yeah. I like that.
No choice.
What about quads?
Probably pendulum now. I would have said hack squat, but doing the pendulum lately, it's
That's
feeling
it.
really good.
Okay. What about hammies?
I know this one.
Seated ham curl.
Oh, I was wrong. I was gonna say an RDL.
Now, I
Well,
like RDLs, but I think I feel the best contraction by far with the seated ham curl.
seated are really nice.
So I know like scientifically everyone says like the seated is better than like a prone hamstring curl, but I just feel like it's such a different exercise. Like I feel such a bigger like squeeze from a prone hamstring curl.
So the reason they say because when you're seated, you're lengthening your hamstring already.
Yeah.
So I think I'm gonna guess at this, but on a prone hamstring curl, it's more of the load is in the shortened position, which will make the squeeze feel better. Whereas on a seated hamstring curl the resistance profile is mostly when your leg is like straight is where it's the
Yeah.
heaviest. So that's why it's better for growth. But I do tend to agree. I feel the prone, and then if you have a sweet like the prone machine we have at my gym is you actually get a pretty good hip flexion on the
Yeah.
prone.
It's bent. Yeah.
Kind of like best of both worlds. But then you got to like really make sure your back stays locked in. Whereas on a seated, you're just like, you're locked in.
Yeah. That's fair.
Yeah, a lot. I feel like a lot of gyms don't have that like that hip flexion on the prone though. Like where they're like straight. They don't like you. If you have that, it feels a lot better for sure because you already feel that stretch at the bottom.
Yeah.
try to lean
That's a
forward
good.
seated for a little bit more of a stretch too. Like I'll sit my butt all the way back, push the seat back, but then lean forward over the handles that I'm grabbing, and it's more of a stretch to
Well,
begin with.
and I'm like, I own a gym and I've looked at building out other ones. For some reason, getting a seated, not that many people make a seated hamstring curl. They're like pretty hard to get,
Yeah.
which is weird. It's the one thing I wish we had at my gym.
Well, you directly control that, Max. So I feel like you
I
could,
directly control,
you
but
don't
I
need to
also
wish.
directly
Just
control
do it.
the bottom line. So
Hey, I bet you could find one. You're pretty resourceful. What about calves, Greg?
Abs probably like just a standing calf raise. I don't really like seated.
Yeah, I hear
yeah,
you.
that leg is not as effective.
No, for sure. I think that's a good list for sure. I like a lot of those.
What's your overall favorite muscle group to train?
Oh, this changes. I don't know if it does for you guys, but this changes just depending on the time. Like right now, I really like doing quads because I
Mhm.
think I'm trying to grow them, and they're the hardest. Doing a pendulum and a leg press and all this,
I feel like you're gonna
all this
die.
stuff. Yeah, it's tough, but I always go back to just loving a good chest shoulder day. Just feeling really pumped up, really juiced.
It's a
Those
great
are
day.
probably my 2 favorite. I go back and forth between loving training like legs, quads, or just chest. I'm
Hmm.
never sad when it's a chest or like a push day. Let's put it that. It's like I'm never not excited to train that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. Well, thanks, Greg, man. This has been awesome. We definitely pumped for you. You're doing some great stuff. Thanks for coming back on. We definitely could. I mean, we could do 10 of these with you. It's awesome talking to you. Best of luck with everything, and hopefully at some point we'll get some
When
training in together.
Yeah, when are you competing and like where can we follow it? What's the goal on this one? Just real quick before we wrap up.
Yeah, I'm gonna compete May 2nd. I'm gonna do like a local qualifier show, and I'm gonna go back to Pittsburgh, and then I'm gonna compete 2 weeks later for USA's in North Carolina. So that'll be like a national competition, and I'll try to get my pro card there. So I'm gonna do physique and I'm gonna do classic. Right now, I don't really know if my legs are up to be pro or not yet in classic, so I'm gonna do physique too. And then if I can get that, then I'll probably take a long off season.
Yeah.
Yay, a lot of bulking and get bigger and debut in classic.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, we'll be following and rooting for you. You're gonna be one big ass physique dude. So
It should probably be around like 220 on stage. So we'll see
yeah,
how that goes.
awesome. Well, thank you, Greg.
Awesome. Appreciate it, guys. Appreciate you having me.